Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 565 of F5 Live, refreshing technology for Sunday, June 28th, 2020. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, TikTok wants your mobile clipboard, Nintendo doesn't want your mobile gaming, and Microsoft wants you to use Facebook. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through a podcatcher like Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, on our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Mixer, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook, or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are a couple of ways that you can do that. First, you can join us live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern at f5live.tv/join us. There, of course, you can chat with us in the studio, give your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you're not able to join us live, that is okay. You can always subscribe at PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. And of course, find all the ways that you can watch or listen. Avram, oh my goodness, it has been a crazy couple of weeks.
Yeah, it really has. I'm really glad to that we're back tonight.
Fingers crossed.
Excited about that. Let's hope it continues. I'll just try to talk fast till we get to the end. But I won't try to belabor the point. But I hope you had a good Father's Day.
Yes, indeed. It was really nice. My brother cooked. I didn't even have to do anything. My brother took care of everything, so that worked out well. Made for an easy day.
Oh, great. Yeah. So, we spent some time with my mom for Father's Day, and my son and I. Well, this was actually more of like the result of Father's Day, because I got myself a Father's Day gift that my son and I built together, which is like this robot.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. We mostly did it this weekend, but anyway, I don't want to talk about what this is because I promised not to talk about Raspberry Pi stuff on the show for a week. Although it's not part of my segment.
Oh, that's so funny.
The body of this is called the STS Pi.
Okay.
But anyway, it's we've been having a lot of fun programming this, and that's and I got a gift certificate for Father's Day, and I'm trying to figure out what to use an Amazon gift certificate. I'm trying to figure out what other project kit stuff to get for our next project, because that's my Father's Day kind of stuff, is my son and I doing tech projects together. So,
yeah,
I taught him HTML 2 days ago.
Interesting.
He said it's easy. It is. I mean, the basics.
It is just a markup language. It's not. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly. It's just formatting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. So he now speaks. He now has some fluency in like 5 programming languages.
Impressive.
So,
Yeah,
good. I was asking him about it today. He can do Scratch, which is a block-based one.
Uh-huh.
He can now do some Python, which is what we've been working on with our projects together. He's seen some JavaScript. He spent a lot of time doing things. He's done some JavaScript for Minecraft and spent a lot of time watching me do it. And he's used something called Lua, which is for the Roblox game. And now, I don't know, I wouldn't count as a programming language exactly, can do HTML. So not bad, not bad for him, not bad for being 8.
Yeah, for sure. That's more than I was doing at 8.
Yeah, well, we didn't have 5 programming languages didn't exist when I was 8. There was the Abacus and there was COBOL.
COBOL and Fortran.
It was machine language. You could just type ones and zeros. They hadn't invented
Yeah, compilers were still new.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been an interesting week for me because I've had, in addition to the show tonight, I've had 2 other broadcasts this week. That just in the last, you know what? In fairness, in the last 26 hours, I have had 2 other broadcasts. Last night we did the social dis dance, which is my favorite thing to say, for the Drew project, which was a lot of fun. And then early this afternoon we had the a drag performance because Brandon, the vice president of the Drew project, won a drag performance as a gift and asked if the prize could be streamed for the organization. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So it's been an interesting weekend. Producing a drag show is a fascinating experience. We've always used the term herding cats for like CES and stuff, but nope. This was herding cats. There were only 2 of them, and it was a little bit like having a drunk person try and tell a story, because it wasn't like a straight line from the beginning of the show to the end, but it was so much fun. I'm so glad that we did it. And if people want to see it, the Drew Project on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, wherever you are, you'll find it. Because again, I produced it, so all the places that we are right now, you'll find that. So yeah, been an interesting week, and every show the setup has been a little different. So I have rebuilt this studio 3 times in the last couple of days, and I'm glad that it's back to normal, and I'd like to keep it that way. Fingers crossed. We'll see how long it stays. Anyway, well, it's been way too many weeks since we've talked about stuff, so let's get down to some news. This week's Nifty Gifties and F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, a new Xbox One, either S or X, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. And remember that current students and active military can save up to 10% on almost everything. And to find out more, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So probably the big topic of the week was WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple. It's when they show off what's coming to iOS, Mac OS, Watch OS, TV OS, all of the generic words followed by OS. And this year, one of the things that they made a big deal about was more granular permissions. And one of the new permissions that has been added for iOS 14 is clipboard access. And so you can know when an app is accessing your clipboard, and you will get a notification with the ability to allow it once, allow it always, or tell it to hit the brakes. And boy, has that opened the eyes of people who are testing iOS 14, because a ton of apps that you wouldn't expect to be accessing your clipboard are. For example, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. What? That's weird. 'Cause why? Why would they possibly be accessing your clipboard? That's weird. It's not like, some apps, it makes sense, trying to add some ease of use. Truecaller is an example. If you've got a phone number in your clipboard, when you open Truecaller, it'll go, hey, this is a phone number. Do you want us to look it up for you? Which is nice. And, it just makes it one step faster. but they're accessing what's in your clipboard. Maybe it's a password. Maybe, who knows what might be in there. So a little weird for apps to be accessing the clipboard. But the app that has made the most noise, as usual, is TikTok. And that is because obviously there's no reason for them to be doing it. And with all of the privacy concerns surrounding TikTok already, the question was immediately raised, what in the world are they doing? Why are they doing that? And what are they doing with it once they have it? And so TikTok said, oh, our bad, we're getting rid of it. And haven't yet. So,
well, I'm interested to. It's interesting to know that Apple let them get away with it up until this point, because I obviously I'm biased by my own experiences, which are not with the Apple App Store, but with recently with Google's Chrome Web Store, which has given me I think we've talked about this on the air, given me a really difficult time about some extensions I made just to share with a handful of people.
Right.
And also I actually do have one Chrome extension that I haven't touched in a couple of years. It has like that, at least I don't know if any of them are still using it, but has had 14 or 15,000 downloads over time that they now want to kick out because retroactively, I guess they didn't like the permissions or something. The thing is, there are legitimate reasons for something to access the clipboard because I've written extensions that do.
Sure.
And you may now I don't know what TikTok's legitimate reason is, but I would love for these things to more accurately talk about what happens to the data that they're accessing. Does it leave the device? Right. Because, like, for example, the extension that I had written, it had to use your clipboard for it's a hack to a very specific web tool that we use, that the only way to do it is to put some data into the clipboard and then paste it.
Sure.
But I don't see it. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. It's on your computer. It's just using the clipboard. So is TikTok looking at the clipboard, and can nobody tell what they're doing?
Right.
And why is Apple so forgiving of this? Because with Google, and if they're doing it with the web store, I'm sure they're doing it with Google Play as well. Like, every permission that you ask for, you have to write a doctoral dissertation on why you should have this permission, and you may get turned down anyway. Like, why do you want permission to open new tabs? Because my thing lets you click a link and open a new tab. Why do you want, like, every single thing you've got to like spell out to them, and I don't even know who's looking at it, but their bias is in favor of rejecting things. So, but maybe if you're a big app like TikTok, you don't get rejected. I don't know.
Maybe it's definitely interesting. The level of transparency is certainly too low on data usage. And granted, verification would be complicated, and I understand that. But the idea that like Truecaller, right? Well, it's a great example because it's one of those things that lots of people have because it works real well, right? So, it accesses, it checks, does this look like a phone number? And if so, it pops up a thing, do you want to search for this number? That's probably all it's doing, which is entirely device-based. It doesn't care, if it says monkey123, it's like, well, that's not a phone number, and just moves on with its day. But, an app like TikTok, which is so known for privacy concerns, the Federal Trade Commission has sued them for spying on kids. They're directly engaged with the Chinese government, and they do a lot of censorship. Yeah, it's the Congress is working on a thing that won't allow government employees to use it on a government device. Like, the level of concern is high, So when something like this happens, obviously your the first place you go is nefarious. Must be. Everything else they do is. Why wouldn't this be? But the fact that just like apps that access your contacts, right? What are they doing with your contacts? Are they uploading them to a server so that they can sell the data? Maybe. If it's a solitaire game that's asking for your contacts, probably. You know. So the level of data transparency is super low.
I guess TikTok is going to ride this permission down the Old Town Road until they can't no more.
Interestingly, they have said that they have already fixed it, and yet, no, not in my experience. Users, for all the reasons that we just said, just like my stance on Zoom, I won't install it anywhere, and so I can't test it. I won't test it, but users on Twitter are saying that even after the most recent update, they're still getting clipboard permission dialogues. So it's like, do they know? Have they seen the dialogue that pops up every time that says, hey, this probably shouldn't happen? Are you sure that you want them to do this? I mean, I understand iOS 14 is only available, theoretically, only available to developers. It's only been available for like 5 days. I get that. But shouldn't they have already installed it and seen what the dialogue looks like and gone, oh, that's going to scare people?
No doubt.
I don't know. It's all pretty weird, but it is not the only one. Like I said, there's a couple others that I mentioned by name, but in an Ars Technica interview, 54 high-profile apps were all pointed out as odd that they would ask for permissions. The newspapers are the most obvious as odd. Why? But 54, including TikTok, are all pointed out as why would they be?
Some things, and I don't fully understand why. I would love to understand why. Ask for location information when it seems not relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I know we had a situation. Admittedly, I guess my son and I have kind of moved on from Lego Boost because he's gotten older, and now we're messing with like more adult level building stuff. But when he was using Lego Boost, there was an issue where the Lego Boost app wanted GPS permissions, wanted location permissions. If you are familiar with that, it is a robot kit for kids. You build it in your house, you send commands to the robots, but there should be absolutely no reason why it needs your Bluetooth, obviously, but there should be absolutely no reason that it needs GPS. And because it needs GPS, I don't know if they've ever fixed this. You could not use it on a Amazon Fire Kids tablet, right, because that's a permission that you can't give to a kid's account for any app on a kid's account. And I remember I actually wrote to someone at Lego about this, and they said something like, in order to access Bluetooth, we have to ask for location permission, which seemed very odd to me. So maybe I didn't quite understand what they're saying, so I'm not quoting Lego verbatim, and this was a couple of years ago. But I wonder if some of the things the companies are asking for permission for, you think that they really want your location, but they need it to use something else that they really need, like Bluetooth.
It's like in the old permission days. For the most part, it's been corrected since then. But in the old permission days, and if you had a flashlight app, it had to have access to the camera because the flash was a part of the camera array. You can target those separately today, I think. I know you could in the last version of Windows 10 Mobile, I think. So I imagine Android and iOS have done the same thing. But they've started to split that stuff out so that you could turn the light on without having to say, we need access to your camera. What? It's a flashlight.
Right.
So just just because it's interesting. Some of the other ones on the list that are a little bizarre. Fruit Ninja accesses your clipboard. PUBG accesses your clipboard. Plants vs Zombies Heroes, which is obviously odd. Zoosk, the dating platform, accesses your clipboard for some reason. Can't imagine what. Some of them I understand. Hotels.com does it for the same reason that Truecaller does. It says, hey, this looks like an address. Are you looking for a hotel in that area? Things like that. So that's similar to what Truecaller does. But AccuWeather, what do they need your clipboard information for? Bed Bath and Beyond is an interesting one. I don't know what in the world that could possibly be.
I just wonder if it's a hack. I wonder if it's a hack and they're actually using the clipboard at almost like a cookie to transfer data within the app.
Well,
I don't know.
Hopefully not, because hopefully they would fire the developer that thought that was a good idea. Because there's way better ways to with a shared class, you can easily do that. But anyway, it's definitely an interesting situation, and one of those things that every time we have a new iOS build and they add a new collection of permission things in, we find stuff like this. So you might want to check the list, see if anybody's doing something you use, doing anything interesting, and try and address it with them. I don't know. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices, and you can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee, all by going to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, so it's been a number of weeks since we tried this to do a proper episode, and things have happened, and you have things, right?
Yes, I am so pumped about this new intro, though. I can't think
you?
about anything else. What? I love it. I love it. So, if I wanted to be like sort of Scrooge McDuck and like jump in a pile of money and take a picture with it, I wouldn't have the money, but I would have the chargers to jump in a pile of chargers, because I have been doing a roundup of gallium nitride powered chargers, and I've got a whole bunch of them, and they are really cool. So this was an event, something that we started seeing at CES, and then actually it started before CES, but really companies were showing off like the latest models at CES, and now they've actually started coming out, and I've gotten in a whole bunch of them to test. So what are these chargers, and why should you care? Well, I don't even have one super handy at the moment, but I think everybody here knows what the charger that came with their laptop looks like. So let me hold you up this charger here. This will charge most laptops that have USB-C charging, I should say. So this here is a 61 watt Aukey PAB2. It is just 43 by 43 by 30 millimeters, making it, I believe, based on my research, the smallest laptop charger you can get. And the reason for this is that rather than using the old-fashioned components that took up more space, a lot of vendors are now using gallium nitride, otherwise known as GaN, and GaN components on the inside can handle a lot more power more efficiently, and so you can pack it into a smaller space. Uh, so these are really, really cool, and they really don't cost that much. I believe this one here, the PAB2, has it come out yet? I may actually have it a little early. Um, the I have the RAV Power equivalent, which is almost as small here. For this is $30. This is RAV Power's really tiny one, and you can see it's just a teeny bit bigger than the Aki, just a little bit, just a little
Okay.
bit. They look almost identical.
Not by much.
Um, well, I'm trying to, right? You also can get one that is 100 watts. So where did I put it? So here, this is a RAV power charger that is 100 watts, or is it 95 watts? It's 100. This will charge a MacBook Pro. So, and compared to the little one, it seems big, but compared to the MacBook Pro charger that people get with their MacBook, it's tiny.
Yeah.
And this one actually has two outputs on it. So theoretically, and I got to test this, I'm in the middle of testing these, you could take it and charge and use two laptops, two regular, you know, non MacBook Pro, like an Air or regular MacBook, or something like a ThinkPad or a Dell XPS. You could probably charge two of them off of this, because really what is needed for a typical small, thin and light laptop that has USB-C charging, which a lot of them now do, really you only need 60 watts or so. Even 45 probably would do it. I was looking the other day at my daily driver laptop here, which is a ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Um, when plugged in, although I think I was only using something like 20 watts, maybe 25.
Mm-hmm.
Now that wasn't really running some major tasks. I got to do some more scheduling, some more serious testing, but like that's really not a lot of power that's being used. So you could probably get away with, although they might give you an underpower, doing two 50 watts off of one of these chargers. So if you were at you and a friend were somewhere, you could plug this in and two USB-C cables out, and you're charging. So it's just ridiculous how much charging output you get from these. And one thing I was playing with, because I want to, now these things all use USB power delivery, which is a standard. But and here's an IO Gear one, by the way. This is 65 watts. How does this compare? It's a little bit different shape.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think the Aki is smaller. Anyway, so I got this cool piece of equipment, and I don't know if I can reach my webcam over to it, but I'm going to try to plug this in for the benefit of the audience that is viewing. The audience that is listening, I will just tell you that what one can do that's kind of neat, is you can get something called a load tester, which I have gotten, and it will allow you to pretend to be a laptop or a phone, right? Because the issue is, you can test a charger by trying to plug in your phone or laptop to it, but if it claims to be a 65 watt charger, if it claims to be a 65-watt charger and um, your laptop's only using 30, how do you really know you're getting what you paid for? So what you do is you get one of these load testers. I mean, I would say average person wouldn't get one because what would they, want to do? But here, let's see if I can. There is my load tester. And if it focuses, you can see on the screen, I've got this charger here, which is a 65-watt Aki plugged in. And I plugged it into something called a PD trigger. This is a little chip that actually tells the USB, anything that's USB power delivery, what voltage mode to send. If something has USB power delivery and you try to plug it into a load tester like this, it will not work without a trigger because it's not getting, I guess, the USB power delivery signal. So going from my PD chip to these little screws here with these clips, that's the PD signal. Now, if you can see, you see if you may not be able to see it, it says 4 volts, 4.8 volts, 2.83 amps, which voltage times amps is your watts. So right now I'm at only a 4.8 volt mode. What you really need on a laptop is the 19 volt mode. So I hit the button on the load tester, it turns green, and now I'm up to the 8 volt mode, and I'm going to hit it again, and I'm going to go up to the I guess 12 volt, but it's really showing me 11.7 right now. Then there's like a 14 volt, and then there's the 19 volt. Did I get there yet? Okay, 19.5. So right now I'm at 19.5 and 2.3, which gives me about 38 watt. It's not giving me my full amount because I haven't turned up the dials here that turn up the amperage. So now I'm at 19.5 and 3.22, which, let's keep going. Now I change it to now I'm at 19.5 and 3.3, which is 64 watts, or it's a 65 watt charger. Now I'm at 65.52 watts. Now, if you reach a point where you get to too high a number, what happens, it's unfortunate that it goes through the whole menu and I just want it to like light up the backlight. So I can get up on this to 3.57 amps before it will basically go back to zero, which means that it shut itself off. That is 16. I don't know if you saw that. I just did it, but it was at 69 watts. Maybe you may not be able to see it because the camera's a little blurry, but it was at 69 watts when I had it at the best case scenario. So this was a 65 watt charger here. I've gotten back up to 19 volts again. Can you see?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I thought it was pretty cool to kind of play with power and see how much you're actually getting. The other interesting thing of note there is that the other interesting thing of note there is if you attach something, if you have a charger like this one that I was just testing, which also has another port. So this has one USB Type C port and one Type A, and this is the 65 watt, one of the 65 watt Aki chargers that I was just showing. If you use the Type A port, like you're using it to power something else, like a phone or maybe a Raspberry Pi, then you don't get as much wattage from the primary port. You only get, I think, in my test, it looked like you were only getting I guess it depends on how much you're sucking out of the Type A port, but certainly not additive. You can't get 69 watts out of the C and then get another 10 watts out of the A or whatever.
Sure.
But it's it's been interesting to see what you actually get. One of the things that's also kind of fascinating is you realize that I mean, it is delivering what it promised. In fact, it's over delivering what it promised. I'm going to go through all of these and make sure that they're delivering what they promised. On the other hand, 65, you probably don't need a full 65 watts or even 60 watts for most laptops that are USB-C charged. And if it's a MacBook Pro, which is the one that uses a 100 watt, I mean, you probably want all 100, but I don't really have one here to say, hey, is it really using 90 or 85 most of the time? But whatever the case is, bottom line, uh, getting one of these gallium nitride chargers like the Aukey PAB2 um, the slightly larger 65 watt PAB3, uh, that those are really going to save you a lot of space in your bag. They're going to save you a lot of um, you know I guess they plug right. One thing I like about them is they plug right into the wall. They're wall warts. It's not like a lot of the chargers where you've got a power brick, and then you've got a wire to the laptop, and you've got a wire to the from the charger to the wall. Um, here you've got this, and then you do have to get yourself a USB-C to C cable, which is maybe $5,
Right.
and you can get a nice long one and run that to the wall. So that to me is a really big advancement. Unfortunately, at this time of social distancing and not lack of business travel, it is not as exciting. It's technically exciting, but not as useful as it was. When I was pondering going to Taiwan and pondering going to Las Vegas for my business trips, like, there's no way I would take like my standard Lenovo charger now. I would completely leave that at home and take a couple of these. I mean, these are so small. I could like carry 3 of them and use them for juggling tricks. And if I lost one, I have another now. And they're fairly cheap. Obviously, it almost goes without saying, but I'll say it. These also will charge your phone. These also will power other things that use USB Type C. So a tablet, a Raspberry Pi. So they're good for a lot of things. The other one thing I will say though about the Raspberry Pi one, and I said I wouldn't do a presentation on Raspberry Pi, but I'm just mentioning as part of the chargers, okay, is that the official Raspberry Pi charger gives you 5.1 volts, and most of these I've tested are giving more like 4.9 volts. Now that seems to be okay. 5 volts is what's recommended for Raspberry Pi, but I think 4.9 is close enough. I don't think it gives you an under voltage error unless you're like under 4.7. But it's kind of interesting. I certainly find this power testing to be an interesting way to kind of see what you're actually getting when you plug your charger in. I'm also going to do the same with batteries. I certainly encourage people when they're buying a charging battery to look at what the amps and volts are that they're getting out of that. Because that could make a difference in whether they're quick charging or they could use to power something. Like the other day, I ordered this little lipstick battery here, just coincidentally, because my son and I wanted to use it to power a robot, and even though it's actually made to charge phones. And this is a great deal. This is an Aukey charger that's like now it's like $7.99 with a coupon also. And it is a Type C charger, and it promises 3 amps of power. Most things deliver most of the batteries are delivering maybe 1 amp, maybe 2 amps.
2.1 if you're lucky.
So that means so 3 amps. 3 amps is good. 3 amps. I mean, 3 amps can very well power Raspberry Pi, but 3 amps will also give you should give you faster charging on your phone. And think of all the other things that are USB powered in your life. I mean, people have lamps, and things like that. That they're powering with
Lamps,
USB.
fans, all
Well,
kinds of things.
yeah. So look. I guess my point is look at the look at the amperage. Don't just look at the milliamp hours of capacity. So anyway, we are doing a roundup on these. I expect to have it up in a few days, but there's a lot of testing to do. But we do have some articles on, particularly on we had covered the launch of the Aukey Omnia chargers, which include this small one, but we're doing a full roundup of testing, which includes all the major brands: Aukey, Rav Power, IO Gear, and Anchor. Um, so check it out when it's ready.
Very cool. Obviously, the biggest loss in these chargers is that term power brick, because these definitely
Yeah, it's not a power
don't
brick
apply.
anymore.
Yeah,
It's not a power brick anymore. It's more like a wall. It's more like well, I don't like the word. I don't like warts, so I don't know what to call it. Wall wart seems like a bad word when the thing that's plugged into the wall you like a lot better than the brick.
indeed.
I will say this: one thing that is lost in these is the ability to use them for self-defense. I mean, you probably could not really hurt someone that badly with one of these. I mean, maybe if the tongs are really sharp or something. Um, I mentioned this because it's a running joke at Tom's Hardware, which people know is my day job. What peripherals you would use to defend yourself, because one of our editors was once on a plane with someone, and he had a really weird seatmate, and the seatmate kept telling him about like all the different things he had in his bag that he could use, all the different things my colleague had in his bag that he could use to defend himself if the plane was taken over. So it was like, oh, you definitely want braided USB cables, not the other kind, because the braided USB cables you can use to garrote someone or something. So,
Weird.
so it's kind of a running joke whenever we get a peripheral, we get a charging cable or something. We're like, oh, could you what kind of weapon would that could you defend yourself if you were like just grabbing something out of your bag to defend yourself? Well, I don't think if you had a really heavy power brick, you could probably use that.
Sure.
These are extremely light. I didn't even get into the weights here, which I'll publish, but they're not just small; they're really, really light. I mean, it's like paper.
That was actually one of the things that I noticed at CES when I was handed one during the interview. I was like, "Oh, this feels like an empty shell. This almost doesn't feel like there's electronics in it." Comparative to a regular laptop brick, like this feels like. Are there electronics in here, or is this like a CES dummy device? He's like, no, that's a real functioning thing.
I think this is also crossing over into other things people would use too, like the power banks themselves getting lighter.
Oh yeah,
and other and I would expect, although I don't know if we really want them to get lighter, things like power strips to use them. Although I don't want my power strip to be too light because then it'll fall over.
But on the other hand, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is how we'd like for more things like power strips to have USB charging ports on them, and this miniaturization of the 120 to 5 volt adapter makes that way more likely.
Yeah. So I recently got, this is somewhat on topic. Let me see if I can string it over here. I need another camera just for showing parts of my desk. So I recently got this new, I don't know if you can see it with the glowing green light over there.
Yeah.
But that is a new, I bought, this is not a review product. I just bought it because I needed one. It's a new Aukey power tower. Right?
Okay.
Power strip, and has 12 outlets, and it has 6 USB outlets on it.
Nice.
And it's vertical, so it doesn't take up much space. So yeah, with all your gadgets, you need your power. Now, what I wish is the USB ports on it are okay. I wish they had US instead of having just Type A ports like it
Mm-hmm.
does. I wish it had I wish they would put this in the power in the
Mm-hmm.
power strip.
Yep.
Um,
But
so
now that we've got,
maybe someday.
well, now that the technology is small, we might actually be able to see that, because you certainly couldn't put your Lenovo charger that you have now into that thing and make it fit.
Right.
But the thing that's in your hand, these GAN chargers, you actually could pull that off. So we might actually be able to see that coming up.
I hope so.
That would be really cool. Well, as always, Avram, I love talking this stuff. The getting down into the weeds is always fun, and learning more about the GAN chargers, which I had a personal interest in after CES, is even more exciting. So thank you for that, and I look forward to the roundup, and of course I look forward to what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. Get all of the accessories you need to up your game on PC, console, or mobile from Razer. Whether you're looking for a gaming mouse and keyboard like we have here in the studio, a webcam and light for your Twitch or Mixer stream for the next couple of days, I guess, or an entire gaming setup like the Razer Blade 15, you can find it all at Razer by going to f5live.tv/Razer. Now, a couple years ago, Nintendo did something that was a little bit of a surprise, and that was they announced that they were going to bring their intellectual property to mobile devices. Now, that was a surprise for a couple of reasons. One, because it would involve them contracting with external sources to build the games, and Nintendo has not had the best history of licensing its content to other developers. If anybody remembers the horrible Zelda games that were created, I believe, by Panasonic, Nintendo's been traumatized ever since. So that was a surprise, but it was also a little odd because Nintendo was bringing the Switch to market, which was designed to be a home and mobile console. So the idea that they would be doing mobile seemed like maybe they would be cannibalizing their own sales. Well, as it turns out, no. It's actually gone the other way. Since new titles have come out on the Switch, they have actually cannibalized the iOS and Android games. The best example being Animal Crossing. When New Horizons launched, it destroyed Pocket Camp. In fact, New Horizons has been so popular that Nintendo's stock price is at a 12-year high, which, considering, what was it, a year or two ago, we were talking about them having their lowest revenue in 100 years. So, to have such a sharp change is a big deal. And so, with that, it appears that Nintendo is backing away from the iOS and Android game development. In fact, they have nothing new in the pipeline. The last thing that came out was Mario Kart Tour. That was in the fall, and nothing's been in the pipeline, and it does not look like they're interested in putting anything in the pipeline, which I can understand. They're going to put their resources behind first-party titles on their own hardware, continue to maintain the games that are out there, but focus on their own stuff. And that makes sense. I get that. The experiences on the mobile device, other than Pokemon Go, the experiences on the mobile device were never lived up to what people had hoped for. So I get it.
You know, it's interesting, right? As we continue to get more and more um, gaming phones and more powerful phones, and even there's always been this talk about, oh, your phone is going to be your new gaming console, and people are going to, not need their consoles, or even maybe even their gaming PCs, because their phone is powerful enough and there are all these phone games. However, I'm not even sure if it's a hardware issue. I don't think it is. I think if the world agreed that, like, users and publishers, everybody agreed that phone gaming was the way to go, and people started charging, $60 for a title that you play on your phone, um, maybe that would, maybe that would be an okay experience. But what's really happening is most phone games are free to play.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to try and pay money for things they want you to make in-app purchases,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're just kind of time wasters. Like,
Yeah.
they don't um, like have a lot of gravitas.
Right.
Pokemon Go has some gravitas. I gotta say, uh, my wife likes to go driving around now and catching Pokemon still, and she like took my phone today and she's like, "Oh, you haven't opened Pokemon Go in months, but I just sent you a gift and I gotta make sure you open it." So,
I understand.
remember,
Michelle, Danielle, I'm waiting.
yeah, yeah. Minecraft Earth, we haven't like used. We
Mm-hmm.
used, we used it for a little while. I guess got, didn't really go out and do it anymore. So, I mean, some of those location games had some promise,
Mm-hmm.
but
Because they
otherwise,
were different. They were a
eh,
thing that you couldn't play on your PC. You couldn't play on your Xbox. It was an experience designed for mobile, as opposed to something like Mario Kart World or Animal Crossing, Pocket Camp, things like that, which were like a watered down version of
yeah,
the real game, which is a very different thing. The location games give you a new experience, and those didn't.
right, yeah, they give you a crappy
Yeah,
experience.
exactly.
I mean, I played some of the Pokemon games that they have for mobile because my son made me download them, and the graphics were bad, and all you did was tap things, and then it kept trying to sell you something, and it's like,
Hmm.
I'm getting a headache,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we got the expansion pack the other day for Pokemon Sword, and we're like, yeah, this is awesome,
Uh huh.
and we played it on the Switch and we played through it, uh, really fast. So, yeah, especially now that there's the Switch, mobile phone gaming is shown to be kind of lightweight. I mean, if people want a good experience gaming on the go, they can take a Switch,
Hmm.
or they could take a gaming laptop, but that's definitely
Right.
a higher level of commitment to carrying a heavy thing,
Or as
relatively,
or as
thing.
things progress with it,
Yeah.
Project X Cloud by itself is promising, but if we can eventually play it paired with the Razer controller grip thing, that might actually bring like a Switch type or a Nintendo 3DS type feel to mobile, and you'd be playing
Yeah.
top tier games, which again isn't a watered down experience, which is what these were, which is why when the full experience came out on the Switch, like New Horizons, Pocket Camp went away.
Yep. So I can't blame Nintendo for switching to a strategy
Yeah.
that works. Focus on what's working. They've managed to create. They were in some real trouble after the Wii U,
Yeah.
and the Switch really breathed new life into that company
Yep.
because it gave it a platform that makes perfect sense for its games. And with Nintendo, it's all about the IP.
Yeah, exactly.
Like other like Xbox and PlayStation 5, I mean, I I'm kind of surprised that Xbox and PlayStation haven't tried to come out with a Nintendo Switch competitor that you could, run on the go. But even if they did, they still wouldn't have the IP.
Hmm.
So like Nintendo has, they've done the 3DS and things like that. So they have the legacy of doing that,
Right.
and then they have the right, and then they have the IP that people are used to. They have the kind of cute games
Hmm.
that people are used to playing that way and don't require fantastic loads of CPU power
Right.
or GPU power.
Right.
It's just fun to play Pokemon for its own reasons. It's not the same. It does not have the same requirements as playing Battlefield 5.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, Nintendo is definitely different than the other two. Its business model is very different. It's all about unique experiences with characters that you're connected to. You know, your big four, right? Mario, Zelda, Animal Crossing, and Pokemon. Those are kind of the big four Nintendo properties, and people love them. Continue to buy them
I feel like
decades and decades later.
I feel like you're dissing Kirby.
Fair enough. Kirby, yeah, he hasn't made, and Smash Brothers, but that's kind of a combination of all of them. So, but I think Nintendo could probably survive on their big four if they really wanted to. They could make a living off of those primary four, and none of them, like you said, require big graphics. They are just fun to play when the experience is right, which the mobile games were not. And so back to the Switch, and it totally makes sense. I'm on board. And like you said, I'm surprised that the other guys haven't tried, but xCloud might be the closest that we get. A Surface Duo and xCloud might get us close to. And actually, it would be pretty similar to a Nintendo 3DS. Now that I think about it, I'm actually excited to get one of those to do that. Anyway, that's that. Don't expect the mobile games that you've already been playing and put time and resources into to go away, but also don't expect new ones to come out. We've kind of got one for each of a couple of the big franchises, and that'll probably be enough for a while. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities. It's like watching a movie with your funniest friends, or if you're like me, people who are way funnier than your funniest friends. To find out all of the feature films, the short films, and the live events that are available, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. So, I think we all know that the social media companies have been inconsistent lately. There's been a lot of heat thrown at Facebook in particular over some of their policy decisions, but even when you look at just the way rules are applied, we know that it has been less than consistent. One public official says something that might be construed as inciting violence, and it gets taken down or gets a flag, and another one gets promoted. It totally inconsistent. And one of the things that has happened this week to kind of show that inconsistency is a Twitter account was suspended for violating the rules. That account was DDoS Secrets, and it has been called the new WikiLeaks. Now, that's because since Julian Assange, about a year ago, ended up in a British prison waiting extradition to the U.S., WikiLeaks has been less active than it has been in the past. And so this organization has kind of come about to continue on the legacy of WikiLeaks. Whether you agree with WikiLeaks or not the point. The point is that this group has come up to follow in WikiLeaks' lead in kind of their void. And so this week, a post called the Blue Leaks, which is 269 gig worth of law enforcement related content, including officers talking about their annoyances with the protests and all kinds of things like that. After that was published, Twitter permanently suspended the account. They said that they don't permit the use of our services to directly distribute content obtained through hacking that contains private information, may put people in physical harm or danger, or contains trade secrets. And while, yes, Twitter's rules do state that, WikiLeaks, that published the entire Hillary Clinton DNC email packet in 2016, their account still exists. And so, again, consistency. And in addition, Twitter said that part of their decision was that this website was distributing malware, which it wasn't. So it's definitely a weird situation, and highlights the inconsistent behavior of the social media companies. And it brings us back to something, Avram, that you and I have talked about a lot. Once you start moderating content, you wade into some murky water because you're going to miss stuff. You're going to do things different. Humans are human. And we're seeing that here.
So it's really interesting you bring this up because there's something sort of implied in this conversation, which is which is talking about Section 230, which Section 2, we could talk, and I wouldn't mind to talk for a minute about Section 230,
sure,
which is right now under a lot of scrutiny. So for folks not aware, Section 230 is a section of the Communication Decency Act of 1996. Is that? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think so. Which was kind of the precursor to the DMCA.
Yeah. So anyway, Section 230 is a section of the law that says that companies cannot be held liable for content published for user content published on their platform.
Right.
Some people will say, "Oh, that's terrible." I think that people don't realize how important that is. Yeah. Now, there was an interesting history of Section 230. I think it was on Ars Technica a couple of weeks ago, which actually brought it all the way back to, I think, a lawsuit involving Prodigy in the 90s. And one of the issues is that Section 230 was actually put into place in order to encourage companies to do moderation, because before that, they could use as a legal defense, although I think it still might be an issue. Hey, we don't touch this. We're not touching it.
Mm-hmm.
So Section 230 gives them protection from being sued even if they do moderate the content. Because the idea was, wow, there was a lot of unmoderated garbage going up there. It's really offensive stuff. And the idea was, well, the companies didn't want to be sued for how they were moderating.
Mm-hmm.
So Section 230 in its own way kind of encourages moderation. Now, unfortunately, well, I guess this is always this is fraught from the beginning. Anytime you're moderating something, particularly when you have a platform that's used for very controversial subjects, like social media is, um, like Facebook and Twitter are, you are going to offend people by making certain decisions. And so, you know, these companies have really tried hard to avoid controversy, I think, more so than to have rules. And I think the position that they put themselves in is now there's controversy coming from them not moderating, so they feel compelled to moderate. But ultimately, what you're talking about here is Twitter is a corporation. They are trying to do everything they can to keep revenue on the service, right? So what they are trying to do is avoid controversy. Now, unfortunately, you can't you can't avoid it,
Right.
because in your effort to not offend one group, you may offend another. So um, what we have going on now, for example, is there's a lot of advertisers who are pulling out of Facebook.
Right.
I think some of them are pulling out of all social media.
A lot of
And
them have
they're
decided to pull out
saying,
of
well,
social media as a whole.
right. To be honest with you, to me, that always made sense. They shouldn't have never, I mean, it was never a high quality medium for advertising,
Right.
because, obviously I'm biased, but like editorial content by professionals is a lot more brand safe for advertisers than user driven content, as you would find on social media,
Right.
because your ad could appear next to anything.
Right.
If you buy
It's
an ad next to,
it's predictable, as opposed to
yeah, if you
social
buy an
media,
ad
which is
next to,
unpredictable.
to a particular publication, I mean, I can't, guarantee we will always say everything that every advertiser agrees with, uh, but we will not like go off of the rails and
Right.
post really offensive stuff. So, like, I think it never really made sense, I guess, from the fact that they could target people, but it was never brand safe to
Right.
advertise on social. But now you have, like, Facebook is in a position, and Twitter's in the same position, where it's like, well, we're in a catch-22, right? Because Facebook decided to take, I mean, Twitter for a long time really was very hands off, and I think what went on here with DDoS secrets is, uh, first of all, it's very controversial for them to publish a leak from a police organization, because that's really going to get a huge backlash. Um, and then, second of all, maybe they're more conscientious right now that they're under the microscope than they were a few years ago. So, um, I think,
And
I
and
think
and
that I think changing times.
and Cambridge, Cambridge Analytica for Facebook kind of changed that tide, right? So, and that came out after 2016. So in 2016, the DNC emails with all the racial stuff and the things that were going on in those emails, that similar types of
But
content, but in 2016 people weren't pissed off at social media like they are today, and demanding more action from them. So yeah, changing times.
I mean, the other thing though is Facebook is right now under a lot of pressure, and they haven't changed a lot with the times. I mean, they've made, I think, some minor concessions, but I still don't think that they are willing to, to fact check ads. They've said that you can put, direct lies into um, Facebook ads, and of course, there's a lot of hate speech on the platform, and as a consequence, advertisers are pulling out. So they were trying not to offend people by not wading into political advertising and not deciding what hate speech was, or taking a very light hand with deciding what hate speech was.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're suffering the consequences of not moderating.
Right. Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see, how that progresses, in particular over the next couple of months, as there's been louder people in the last month, right? The people who are calling for action have gotten far louder and have a more powerful voice than possibly they've ever had before. And so it'll be interesting to see how all of the companies handle it, and whether or not there's a way to figure out how to apply rules more consistently, which is the thing. And all user generated content sites are dealing with this. Twitch has been accused of the exact same thing, indiscriminately applying or ignoring rules against streamers and things like that. So, it's definitely a difficult thing, because if you and I both look at the same thing, we may come to different conclusions, and that's how moderation works. People look at it. Humans, people, with their own skew on the world. So, it'll be interesting to see if they can figure out where that middle ground is going forward. This week's news from DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that Prime offers free shipping on millions of products, but that isn't all you get. In fact, for your $99 per year, free shipping might be the smallest of your benefits. Free music with Amazon Prime. Free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video. Free games, and free subscription with Twitch Prime, and a whole lot more. And you can learn about a number of the benefits and get a 30-day free trial if you're not a subscriber, or you can even give it as a gift. And you can find all of that by going to f5live.tv/prime. So, speaking of Twitch, let's talk about Mixer for a second. Some people may be watching us on Mixer right now, and my recommendation will be to follow us over to Twitch, because in a couple of weeks, Mixer will be gone. In an attempt possibly to hide the news, during Apple's WWDC keynote, Microsoft announced that Mixer was going away. On the 22nd of July, they gave them exactly 1 month. Mixer will be no more. The high-profile streamers that Microsoft paid to join the service, most notably, of course, Ninja, who left Twitch to come to Mixer, they are officially, the night before the announcement was made, they were paid the remainder of their contracts. They were let out of those contracts and told you can do whatever you want. Microsoft, on the other hand, their transition plan is through Facebook Gaming. So, out of one fire into another. Because obviously, Facebook Gaming comparatively is nothing compared to Twitch. So, it's definitely one weird thing into another. But there's a process. Facebook Gaming has an import process from Mixer, so that you can easily bring your channel over. If you were a partner on Mixer, you're a partner on Facebook Gaming. If you were all the things that you were before, you get to carry over, which is nice. But there's one weird caveat. Facebook Gaming is not available on the Xbox. So Microsoft, despite having a relationship with Facebook for gaming as the official transition plan, on the Xbox One, it tells you, after Mixer goes away, stream on Twitch. So once again, we're back to consistency. The messaging is very confusing. But after Mixer goes away, the ability, obviously, to stream to and from Mixer on the Xbox will be discarded, but that will be temporary, which suggests to me that they're working on integrating Facebook gaming in the way that Mixer is now, so that recommendation to go to Twitch is temporary, but once you're there, right, Avram? It's like, if you're recommending people to switch there today, they're not going to change again in 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 3 months or, whenever the new thing comes into place.
Do they think that this is going to help boost Facebook gaming? And
Yes.
Why do you think Microsoft chose Facebook gaming as their partner of choice?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because they didn't want to send traffic to Twitch.
I don't know if they didn't want to send traffic to Twitch, or maybe Facebook actually made them an offer. They definitely weren't going to send people to YouTube gaming because the relationship between YouTube and Microsoft has always been contentious. But, Twitch and Facebook were probably the only options. Facebook may have made an offer, and for all we know, they may have bought the Mixer assets. Maybe Facebook is going to move their gaming stuff to Azure. Who knows what the relationship might be, and there would have been no such option with Twitch. Twitch wouldn't have been interested because they've got AWS and all that behind them, so they wouldn't have been interested in that relationship. Maybe Facebook is. So there might be a financial motivation behind it.
Yeah, I'm wondering what their selling point is to users. Like, oh, we had a service, we abandoned it. I will say this: Microsoft is really good at under Nadella is really good at knowing when to, I don't know knowing when, but they definitely cut bait. They will definitely cut an underperforming project. They will. I mean, Windows Mobile gone.
Microsoft retail stores.
Microsoft retail stores, we didn't even mention, gone this week. Music gone.
And
so
if you look at some of those transitions, right? So we've got Xbox Music, Groove Music, whatever, Zune, whatever you want to call it in its life. When it went away, they had a transition plan. They already had Spotify ready to go. Spotify had an import process, and they gave you a certain number of months for free if you transferred in. With the Microsoft Store stuff, there's already a Microsoft Store experience in Best Buy. My guess is that what we'll hear is that some of the official support stuff will start showing up at Best Buy through the Geek Squad. In the Microsoft Store experience centers, with Mixer going away. When they made the announcement, they had a transition plan, an import process into Facebook gaming, with keeping all of your status, partner and revenue and all that stuff transfers over one for one. So when they do bow out, other than mobile, and even in mobile, the partnership with Samsung kind of filled that void. That when they back out of something, there is a transition plan in place. Whether or not it's a useful one.
Yes. Except if they were to start a new service, it would certainly make me think twice about, if it's something I've got to commit. If I'm committing to something, how long are they going to stick with it? Because, when did they sign Ninja? Maybe a year ago?
Wasn't even.
Right. I guess maybe you could call that a last minute desperation move.
That's exactly what it was.
They see that it's not working and they're going to cut bait. But it's an interesting strategy because Microsoft's strategy used to be to have an ecosystem. Like, you've got to be part of this Microsoft ecosystem. You know, we've got everything for you. You know, stay in our garden. We've got operating systems, we've got platforms, we've got a search engine. I mean, one could wonder what is the next, you know, now they're really comfortable with, like, okay, we realize that we're not as good at music as Spotify, so we're gonna just hand the mic to Spotify. And you know, from a user perspective, okay, they're right. They weren't as good as Spotify, but from a business perspective, like, you're playing in fewer and fewer areas. So,
Although, in
you know,
fairness,
how does this work out for you?
they have started to lean back into the old Microsoft of being a business and developer first system. Yes, there are consumers out there. Yes, consumers use our stuff, but you know, Office 365. There's Microsoft 365 too, but the Office 365 stuff is really focused on you know, business subscribers. Azure is all about businesses and developers. Yeah, so a lot of their consumer facing things, wholly consumer facing things, are the ones that have kind of been drying up over the last couple of years. Because, you know, Chase isn't going into a Microsoft store and buying Lenovo laptops. They're going to CDW, they're going to Insight, they're going to somebody like that to buy those. They're not streaming on Mixer. If they're using a gaming thing, they're using Twitch, but they're probably using something like Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, in fairness. But that doesn't require, but that's a businessy thing, right? That's not a, although they've added consumer features to Teams in the last couple of weeks, but it's the consumer things. They're not streaming music in their offices with Groove. They're not buying movies or renting movies with Microsoft TV and video. They're, you know, that's not a business thing. It's a consumery thing, and those are the things we've started to see dry up. Except for the hardcore ones. Obviously, Windows will always be a consumer and business thing. Xbox will always be a consumer thing, and that's been a big success for them. But you know, it's the things that appeal to businesses. They've leaned back towards that direction, and it's working for them. They've handed the reins to their consumer stuff to other people. Mobile went to Samsung, Mixer went to Facebook, Groove went to Spotify, but none of them have vanished. There was always a transition plan, and so, you know, I think that makes sense. It's sad to see some things that we liked. You know, the video quality on Mixer was always better than Twitch. The delay between chat integration is way less on Mixer, so you can actually interact with your audience better, which was nice. But you know, Twitch and Facebook have solid services. They've both got good followings. I mean, even Jay from Jay and Silent Bob, even he streams his gaming stuff on Facebook Gaming, and he does really well with it. So, you know, there's people there. It's not Twitch, but there's people there, which was always Mixer's problem. There just weren't people there. So we were always there, but that's because the video quality was better. Honest to God, the video quality is better. That's always been my go-to there. But it's over, and it is what it is. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate it. If you didn't join us live, would like to in the future, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. That's going to have to change in the next couple of weeks because the embed there is for Mixer. Hadn't thought about that until just this second. So, but it's always there. You can always join us there. If you'd like to listen at your leisure, you can always go to plughitslive.com/subscribe and see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can subscribe. You can basically listen or watch anywhere that you are. And if we're missing somewhere that you would like us to be, let us know and we will figure it out. Like we said at the beginning of the show, it was great to finally be back after technical difficulties and holidays and everything. And hopefully we're back to normal because this show went off without a hitch. So with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.